guys, and welcome back to the channel. This is actually going to be a different kind of video than I have been doing. I thought about this as I was recording like a couple episodes before the finale, and I thought, why don't I do a recap of the season right after I am done finishing the season finale. If you guys want me to do season 1, I can go back and do it if this turns out to be a popular video. I was just thinking that I would want to do this just to talk about the series as a whole and just the season as a whole, things I like, things I didn't like, maybe some of my favorite episodes, least favorite episodes. I don't know how the structure is gonna go, so we'll see if I keep the same structure or if I change it up. But I just want to talk about the season as a whole and kind of my opinions on different characters, on different storylines, and everything like that. So I'm thinking I'm just going to talk about the season, like the overarching theme of the season and storylines, then go more into detail on the particular storylines of the big three, Clark, Lex, Lana, and then maybe talk about, some favorite episodes and some not so favorite. So yeah, so that is what I'm going to do for this video. If you guys like this format, I'll continue. If it turns out to not be so great, I change it up. I'm flexible. We're cool. Yeah, so season 2, as a whole, I really enjoyed this season. I thought it was much better than the first season. I thought as a whole, it had much better episodes. Sure, you had some duds in there, but you had way more duds in season 1 than you did in season 2. And in the second season, we really got away from the Freak of the Week format. Well, you did have some Freak of the Weeks. It was only in like half the episodes. Because I know in like the first season, the best episodes were like 2 or 3 of them that centered around the Luthers and the Kents. And in the second season, I felt like they had a lot more, which is why I thought it was a better season overall. The overall theme, I want to say, is fathers are finding out your heritage and where you come from, and just learning about yourself, because we saw that in the big 3 characters, but the biggest one was obviously Clark, finding out about who he was. And so we get the caves in there, so he is finding out about where he is from, what his destiny is, and learning all about him and why he was sent here to Earth, and just finding out about his heritage and his background. Excuse me. So that was good. And then there was the game of who has the key. So that was kind of fun, figuring out who has the key. And then you got to see like Lex and Lionel, and they're getting closer and closer and closer to figuring out the truth and figuring out who Clark is and things like that. Like you saw them both had like meteor rocks. They had the key. Lex had Clark's blood, so there was that. And so you had these 2 billionaires, and one of them was going to be his biggest villain, his biggest enemy, and they are circling around the Kents, and they are getting closer and closer to the truth. Overall, that was kind of the overall storyline and the overall theme of the entire season. So now we're getting to the point where Lex and Lionel are both really, really close to finding out the truth. As far as the big 3, I'll go Clark, Lex, and then Lana. Clark, at the very beginning, he has heat vision, so that was cool. And honestly, that's probably the funniest episode was when he gets his heat vision, because he just gets really horny. I'm like, that is hysterical. Absolutely love that episode. It was a fun time had by all. I loved it. It was awkward, but they like played into the awkwardness, so that was really fun. So we did get a new power, so that was really cool. So he's developing that. We are introduced to red kryptonite, which basically gives away all of his inhibitions. So it doesn't mean he's bad Clark. It just means everything he's wanted to say and do without reservation comes out. So all of this that he's doing is coming out from inside of him. And it's kind of wildness without thinking really consequences, really. So, of course, both times is when he asked out Lana, and she just gets shit on by him, which really, really sucks. Like the first time they go out to this bar for some reason, and he ends up like making out with another girl. Then in the second time, literally walks in on him making out with Chloe. Like, oh my goodness, he has the worst luck with red kryptonite. So it'll be fun and interesting to see how often they bring red kryptonite back, and seeing what he does on red kryptonite, because at the very end of this season, as you saw, he ends up putting on red kryptonite because he was afraid and did not want to embrace his destiny and go with Jor-El, so he ended up putting this kryptonite key into the ship. So, and it blew up, and his mom lost the baby, and he's feeling really guilty, and so he can't handle it, and so he just puts on the ring and he rides his dad's motorcycle off into the sunset. But the biggest thing obviously is Christopher Reeves. He guest starred, which was so cool, which was awesome, and he was the one, and I thought it was so awesome that it was almost like passing the torch from Chris to Tom, and telling Clark about Krypton, telling him about what he was sent here to do, about Jor-El, about Krypton exploding, and him being the last son, and things like that. So he, got to hear Krypton. He got to hear the name Kryptonite. He got to hear Jor-El. Like, he is now you're getting much more into the mythos of Superman and things like that. So that's always really, really fun to play into and to really dive into. So he's finally starting to learn more about his heritage and where he is from, getting to know his father. And you see the pull of him, of this conqueror that his dad says he's going to be, and the goodwill that his dad is saying that, no, you have a choice. You are good. You are not sent here to conquer. So you see him battling like, well, who is my father? And who are the kind of people I'm supposed to be, because I have all these powers. He says I'm going to conquer, but my Earth dad is telling me that I'm a force for good. So it's like you're seeing that push and that pull from him, and you're seeing him just start to not embrace his destiny, but figure out more about himself and figuring out who he was, who his family was, what his background is, and why he was sent here to Earth. Because you got to remember, before Rosetta, all he knew was that he landed in a spaceship, and like he didn't know about Krypton. He didn't know why he was sent here. He didn't know if he was the only one. Like, he literally knows nothing. So you finally get to start exploring that part of his heritage, and like trying to figure out where he comes from and how that will shape him going forward. Lex, we'll go on to Lex now. He, of course, is having issues with his own father, because let's face it, it's Lionel. I love him, but I hate him at the same time. Like, John Glover just steals every single scene that he is in. He is so freaking good, and he was masterful at the end of this season. But we'll talk about the end in here in a second. But Lionel ends up going blind from the Twisters at the end of the first season, and so he has to move in with Lex, and Lex is like trying to take care of him. And then you find out, guess what? He wasn't blind at all. Well, I think he was for a few weeks. My guess is when he got shot in Suspect, that is when he got his sight back. But Lex he knows who his father is, and he knows how his father operates. And he is actually trying to distance himself from his father. He wanted to take over the plant in Smallville because he wanted to distance himself from his father. He wanted to buy it out to help everybody that Lionel just put out of business at the end of the first season. And he wants to not be his dad so bad. And you can see that Lex, he has good intentions. He doesn't have too many ulterior motives, unlike his father. Like, he is trying to be a better man. He is trying to go against all his Luthor instincts and be the man that he wants to be. He wants to be the good guy. He looks up to Clark, his best friend, his brother, who is so good and inherently moral. And Lex, like, I want to be like you. I want to be like the Kents. But it's in his makeup, and it's who he is, that he is a Luthor, and he is trying to not be his father at every single turn. He is trying to be his own man and not be like his father at all. And throughout the season, also, he is, again, it's that Luther side of him, though, that keeps coming back in. His curiosity and his need to know the truth just overtakes him, and his obsession with knowing the truth and figuring out what happened to the Porsche. He has a big room where he's investigating Clark, and he stole Clark's blood, even though I don't think he knows it's Clark's. But he wants to know the truth. He wants to know what happened on that bridge still, and he wants to know, what's with these bullets, what's with kryptonite, what's with these meteorites. Like, he's trying to figure all of this out, and it's innate curiosity that in the end is going to be his undoing, because right now he has good intentions. He's not trying to hurt anybody. He is just trying to figure out the truth, even though we know when it's starting to be a slippery slope that I'm pretty sure we'll see start to weigh on him and the choices that he makes. But right now, that Lex-Clark relationship is so good. I love their friendship. I love Lex. I love Clark. Their interactions are amazing, and I love them so much. And it is going to break my heart when they become enemies. I know it is. It's just going to be, it's fascinating to watch, but knowing what's going to happen in the end is just heartbreaking. And then, of course, you have Lana, who, dealing with her father, who comes back. Of course, her mom and dad ended up dying in the pilot from the meteor shower, but she finds out that her dad might not be her dad. It's this Mr. Smalls lawyer guy, and it turns out it's true that her biological father was still alive, and he didn't even know about her until, she's like 16. At first, he's very dismissive and doesn't really want anything to do with her, but eventually they do warm up to him, and he helps out with Clark in a few situations and things like that. But I have a feeling that they really didn't know what to do with him, because he didn't play much of a role at all. I think they just wanted to include her into the overall theme of fathers and figuring out your origins and figuring out who you are through that. And because Lex and Clark going through that, so I'm guessing they just wanted to get Lana into that overall theme as well. So she ended up finding out, about her dad, and he kind of went off unceremoniously. His wife was divorcing him because he was getting close to Lana, and was like, I'm like, that's why you're divorcing him, because you're not a priority? It's a guy getting to know his daughter. That is complete bullshit. I hated that. It was, I don't know what they were thinking with that. I just, again, they didn't know what to do with them. They're just going to write him off the show. And he literally doesn't even give her a hug or anything when she says that they need to step back, and that, go with your wife, fix things with your wife. You're not leaving me. I'm telling you to go. And he just walks off. I'm like, dude, this is your daughter. Are you kidding me? This is nuts. I feel like there could have been some middle ground, but I also feel like they were just trying to find a way to write him off the show and get him off the show. And then obviously towards the end, the last 2 episodes, everything really came to a head where Lex and Lionel are circling the Kents. They found the caves. Dr. Walden ended up knowing how to read the cave walls and read the symbols, and he put them in his mental box or whatever that he was in. And of course, it's the same symbol that was in the barn. So Lex is questioning everything. Lionel comes in, takes over basically, and is like, I'm taking over the caves. I have this key. I'm going to figure all this out. Somehow it's all connected to you, Clark. And I'm going to figure this out because I got meteorites. I got a file on you. I got the key. I got everything that I need right now. And I'm going to figure out your secret. It's only a matter of time before the Luthers figure this out, because they are way too close for them not to figure this out. So the biggest question is, Like, how much does Lionel know about all of this? How much does Lex know about this? They can't know that much more than Clark, right? Yeah, I thought that was great. Again, if you couldn't tell, my favorite part of this entire season has been the Luthers and the Kents, and them figuring out the secret and figuring out these caves and figuring out Krypton and things like that. It just goes to show, like, it's almost like a race, like, who can figure out the truth the fastest. And it's so good and so captivating. That was a great part of this season. I think my least favorite part was the love triangle. Just because I felt bad for Chloe, because she is so in love with Clark, but Clark is in love with Lana, and she gets mad at Clark for being in love with Lana, and Lana, being in love with Clark is just like, like, they were forcing a love triangle that didn't need to be there. I was fine with them at the end of season 1, like, playing with it a little bit, and then kind of, like, easing back, and I like, okay. But then they brought it back towards the end of the season, and I was getting annoyed, because I love Chloe, but I was getting really, really annoyed with her towards the end. I was like, girl, he doesn't love you. He loves Lana. Move on. Be his best friend and move on. And I understand you can't just turn off your feelings. And I understand they're teenagers. But still, that annoyed me. And the fact that she kept getting so mad when Clark and Lana kept spending time together and didn't tell her that they were together. First of all, that happened like 12 hours beforehand. So calm down. They were going to tell you, just maybe not in the time that you wanted them to. And she's completely pissed off. And what does she do? She goes to Lionel. So now she makes a deal with the devil and is going to be researching Clark. And again, this all goes back to how much does Lionel know and when he's going to figure everything out, because he is very, very close. The other thing I didn't like also was the baby thing with Martha. It kind of goes along with the small thing. It just kind of, we're just not, like, they could have done so much more with them, and they just didn't. Like, they would randomly mention the baby, and just like they would randomly bring in Mr. Small for like a scene or two for an episode. Because you knew in the back of your head that this is probably not going to be a thing, that she probably wasn't going to have the baby, or if she did, something was going to happen to where Clark didn't have a sibling. That's kind of, you kind of could see where it was heading. And I never thought, when she said she was pregnant and everything, I never thought that she was actually going to have the baby. I thought something was going to happen. And unfortunately it did, because Clark destroyed his ship. The truck rolled over and she lost the baby. So again, they just wrapped up 2 storylines pretty quickly that are probably not going to go into the 3rd season. So the love triangle, the unnecessary love triangle, and the baby were kind of the 2 storylines that were not my favorite. Yeah. So let's go into, I'm going to do now my favorite character right now, the least favorite character right now, and then I'll go through my top 3 episodes of the season and my bottom 3 episodes of the season. So I'll start with my least favorite character, and I cannot believe I'm saying this. It's Chloe right now. And it doesn't mean I don't like her. I just love everybody right now. I just feel like maybe it's because these last like 5 episodes, she is just getting so annoying. I love, like that's like, don't hate me. I love Chloe. It's just the whole jealousy thing with Lana and Clark, and the way she gets so upset with Clark for liking Lana, for spending time with Lana, and I'm just like, girl, calm down. Like, you know he's in love with Lana. Why are you fighting this? Why are you being so upset? And it really hurt her character in my eyes. Again, that really does go back to why it is one of my least favorite storylines, is love triangle. I love her as a character. I love her as Clark's best friend. It's just this weird love that she has for Clark. And she knows he doesn't love her back, and yet she keeps like holding on to, maybe we can do this. And it's like, just move on. If it's meant to be, he'll come back later. But it's like, there was an episode in Fever where she spills her heart out to him, and she's just like, I'm gonna let you go for now, but Hopefully he'll come back to me. Okay, let him go, but you're not doing that. And it really, really hurt her character in my eyes. And the fact that now she was really strong, being really loyal to Clark in episode 22. And then in this last episode, she completely flipped in like a day and is now going to spy on Clark for Lionel. And I don't like that about her. I hate the fact that she's being petty and she's doing this because she's hurt. And it sucks. It sucks that I'm saying this right now because I actually really do love Chloe. But I guess this is how much I love like all the characters. Is because I really can't pick one that's my least favorite right now. It's just because of that aspect of Chloe, and it's really hurt her character in my eyes. And of course, my favorite character is Lex. Yes, not Clark, Lex. I think he has so much dimension to him. He has so much goodwill. He just wants to be loved and accepted. He doesn't want to be a Luthor. He doesn't want to be like his dad. But he has this innate this curiosity about him and this obsession that he has. And he's just such a complex character. And Michael Rosenbaum is amazing in this role. He is absolutely perfect in this role. And he steals the show. Every single episode, and every episode that he has scenes with Lionel, those are the best scenes of the show. The best storylines of this show are with the Luthors, and there's a reason for that, because their relationship is so complicated, and I think that's what makes him an even better character, is how they have a very complicated relationship between Lionel and Lex. And this, just seeing the pull that Lex goes through of being a Luthor and his bad side, but him wanting to be good, and you're seeing that struggle. It's amazing to watch. Like I said, Michael Rosenbaum, probably the best actor on the show with Lionel, so you can imagine that the best scenes of the show are going to be with them. I freaking love Lex. I love his friendship with Clark, and like I said earlier in this video, I am going to hate it when they become enemies. It's going to be so heartbreaking to watch. So now we're going to talk about, we're going to go through my we'll do my 3 least favorite episodes, and then we'll go through my 3 favorite. My number 3 in terms of least favorite is Visitor, the one with the kid who thought he was an alien, but it turned out he wasn't, and he could heal people. I don't know, I was kind of bored with that. I know it was like Clark was wanting to find somebody who was like him. But the climax was very anticlimactic. I just didn't care. I didn't care about the kid. I kept thinking, when is this episode going to be over? It was kind of slow. I don't know. It didn't captivate me very much at all. My second least favorite is Nocturne, the guy who, when he went out into the sun, like he turned into like this beast type character. I don't know. Kind of reminded me a little bit of like Phantom of the Opera kind of thing. Like he just had this like really weird obsession with like poetry and like the 1800s and like doing like, I don't know, it was weird. I just didn't like it. We had a freak of the week who was obsessed with Lana, which was, again, it's a repetitive thing that does kind of get annoying, but they haven't done it in a long time, so I give the show credit for that. Yeah, it was just, Lana was kind of stupid that episode, like going into the cemetery all by herself with this alien. I was like, Lana, what are you doing? What are you doing? I don't know, I just didn't care for that episode either. I don't know, it was just kind of eh. And of course, my least favorite was Redux. That was so bad. It was so jumbled. They had like 4 storylines going on. You had the aging cheerleader who had to like suck energy out of people to stay young. You had the Kents with money problems, so she calls her dad, but her dad is like against the family, against Jonathan. And then you had Clark being bullied by the principal. Even though he wasn't being bullied, the principal was trying to actually help him out with this assignment, like figuring out like where are you going to be in 5 years. And it was just like, okay, it was a lot of story jumbled up together that I didn't really care about. And then also the climax was just weird because he literally just like threw her through like the screen, and then I don't know, she just like decomposed. I was like, wait, what? Like, it was weird. It's not memorable at all. So yeah, so that was my least favorite, was Redux. It was just a bad episode. But we're going to go from the bad and we're going to transition to the good. My 3 favorite episodes. Number 3 was Calling, the first half of the season finale of this season. I thought it was so good because you had Lionel just putting his fingers into everything, and he was going around trying to investigate everything, trying to figure it all out. You had Clark and Lana actually being together, and then we had the rehearsal dinner, and he's telling her that let's give this a shot, and they actually are together finally. But at the end of this episode, like at the end of the season finale, who knows at that point. And then you had Walden coming through telling the Luthers that it was Clark Kent that is the one they're talking about, and said the day is coming that the last son is going to conquer the world. And he's like, it's Clark Kent. So now, the Luthers know that's all connected to Clark. And so it's just closing in and in on Clark, and the intensity of that episode. It's just so good. I really enjoyed that episode. That one flew by in a second. It was so good. Number 2 was Rosetta. Of course, you have to put Christopher Reeves in this episode. And any episode where you have Christopher Reeves, you learn about Krypton, you learn about why he was in the ship and everything else. Like, how do you not put that on your list of top episodes? It was so good because he finally got to hear about his history and finally getting into the more mythos of Superman. So that was always fun to see. And my favorite one was Insurgents. That was a fantastic episode. I think it's probably my favorite of the first 2 seasons. I'm not going to lie. It was so good. It was so compact, where the stakes were so high, because these were guys that, I felt bad for Lex in that episode, because he had hired these guys to bug Lionel's office because he had found a bug in his office. So all he wanted was for them to bug his dad's office, but then it turns out that they end up taking Lionel and Martha hostage, and because they're going to steal from Lionel. And that's, when we find out, that Lionel has kryptonite bars. He has the key. He has a file on Clark. Like, you realize, oh shit, he knows so much more than what we think he does. And that's when you're like, oh crap, how much does he know? And you look at the end of the season, you're still like, how much does he know? It's so good. And of course, you got some iconic things that happened. You had their first time in Metropolis, in that plaza. You got to see the Daily Planet for the first time. You got to see him run and leap a tall building, even though he kind of missed it. But he got in there just like, oh, so cool. The adrenaline was there. It was awesome. I think it was my favorite episode of the entire series so far. So overall, I thought it was a really good season. I thought it was a strong season. I thought there were definitely weaker episodes, but there were definitely a lot more stronger episodes than weaker ones. And I do like the fact that they are finally getting more and more into the mythos of Superman, of they're getting Jor-El involved now, and he's learned about his past and who he is. And so it'll be fun to see what he learns in this next season and how much more into the mythos of Superman that they get into. So overall, I thought it was, like I said, pretty strong season. I'm going to give this an 8 out of 10 for the season overall. Like I said, it's a pretty strong season. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was really good. It wasn't like fantastic, but I was entertained. I thought it was good. It kept me engaged. I thought the characters were well written. I love the fact that Lionel is a series regular because he is awesome. And they definitely got more into what really makes a show work. They really got more into the family dynamics of the Kents and the Luthers, and the family dynamic between Clark and his parents and Lex and his dad. And then you see the polar opposites, and when you see them collide and clash, it is so good, and that is great television. So that is my final thoughts on the second season. If you want me to do a recap of the first season, I'll gladly do it. Just let me know. If you liked the structure of this, if you want to change things up, I'm thinking I might do one at the end of every season just to do a full recap and just kind of give my opinions on the bigger overarching things and not just episode by episode now that I can look back and look at the season as a whole. So if you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. And let me know what you think. What were some of your favorite storylines? What were your least favorite storylines? Who's your favorite character? Who's your least favorite character? What's your favorite episode? Your least favorite episode? I want to talk with you guys and talk about this season. So, yeah, I don't know how to end this video, but we are going to end it. And in the next video, we are starting the 3rd season. And I, for one, cannot wait. I'll see you guys then.